Hello everyone. I'm here with Sus Hot Tub Interviews. Good evening. Today I'm with Mormon legends Joseph Smith and Brigham Young. I'll be asking them a variety of questions to further understand their importance to the Reform period and the history of our country. Tell me a little bit about yourselves.
I'm Joseph Smith. I was born in Vermont. I grew up in New York with my Christian family. I experienced a lot of religious revivalism going on as a child. One day as a teenager, I had a series of religious visions. These visions pushed me to write the Book of Mormon and found Mormonism, which makes me the father of Mormonism.
And I am Brigham Young. I was raised in a frontier settlement in Vermont. My father was a Revolutionary War vet. Before I became a religious leader, politician, and settler, I was an accomplished carpenter and painter. I discovered the Book of Mormon at the age of 28. I eventually became the second president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormon Church.
Joseph, what motivated you to create the Mormon Church?
When I was a young lad, I had a series of religious visions.
What did you see in these visions?
I had many visions. In one, I saw God and Jesus, and they were speaking to me. Directly, I saw a light. This is a quote from Joseph Smith himself. Directly, I saw a light, and then a glorious personage in the light. Behold, this is my beloved son, hear him. So that was me speaking with God.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In others, I saw angels, and they direct me towards a buried book that told of an ancient American civilization. These books were from Judeo-Christian perspective, so I translated them, and thus turned it into the Book of Mormon. 1 year later, in 1830, I founded the religion Mormonism.
Ah, so that is how the Book of Mormon was created. What does this book teach?
Mormonism is a branch of Christianity that involves the faith of Christ. Faith can be obtained through devotion like journeys and baptism. Mormons value love for all and repentance of sin. Early Mormonism featured polygamy, where a man can have multiple wives.
Oh, no way. What did you do from there?
With my teachings, I moved west and began my legacy. I started in New York and picked up followers. Then I spread to Ohio and Missouri and Illinois. By this time, I had attracted tens and thousands of followers, and also persecution.
What problems did Mormons face in the beginning?
It's like,
Leave it in.
initially, trying to gain followers, some thought our ideas were far too radical and extreme for Christianity. For example, our beliefs in polygamy specifically aroused the hostility of the government. Additionally, we were against slavery, so we didn't own slaves. Other pro-slave members in these areas felt threatened because the issue of abolishing slavery was a big issue back in those times.
Oh, so how would you say you left your legacy?
By creating a religion, gaining followers, and practicing it, I completely shifted the dynamics of religion in the United States during this era.
How long did this legacy last?
My teachings ended when an anti-Mormonism mob assassinated me in 1844. But my legacy continued, and this was when those who valued me and my ideas spread west, led by my good friend, Brigham Young.
I hate Mormons.
Oh, no, he's dead. Brigham, what motivated you to get involved?
Well, it took me a while to officially convert. This is a quote by myself. I examined the matter studiously for 2 years before I made up my mind to receive that book. I knew it was true, as well as I knew I could see with my eyes, or feel by the touch of my fingers. Had this not been the case, I never would have embraced it to this day. I wish time sufficient to prove all things for myself. This is a quote of mine from a newspaper in 1852. I felt a very strong connection to Joseph's work.
Once you converted, what did you do next?
After my baptism in 1832, I became an ardent missionary and disciple and moved to Kirtland, Ohio, where I did carpentry work and undertook preaching missions. I became an apostle in 1835. From 1838 to 1839, I directed the removal of the Mormons from Missouri to Illinois. I served as a missionary in Great Britain for a couple of years and was placed in charge of the church's business operations. When my friend Joseph Smith, who's no longer with us, passed away in 1844, I became the president of the Mormon Church and served as the president until I died.
Interesting. And what are some things you did as president of the church?
Well, I did plenty of things. First of all, I directed 16,000 Mormons from Illinois to Utah. and I also created the Perpetual Emigrating Fund Company, which during the years 1852 to 1877 assisted approximately 80,000 converts to migrate to Utah from Great Britain, Scandinavia, and continental Europe. I constantly searched for converts, and I also became the first governor of Utah. I am now regarded as one of the leading Western settlers, and I founded a handful of universities in Utah, such as Brigham Young University, now known as BYU. Yeah. I did that.
Why did you bring so many people to Utah?
Well, I wanted to move west in hopes of finding a sanctuary in a place on this earth no one else wants. That's a quote by me. Our Mormon community struggled greatly with discrimination, and when Joseph was killed, I knew it was time for change. We had faced discrimination in states such as Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri.
Did you all live happily ever after once you moved to Utah?
No, absolutely not. In 1857, President James Buchanan sent an army into Utah, as many saw our migration to Utah and other western states as a rebellion to federal authority. This conflict was resolved, and we lived in peace for about a decade until the federal government wanted to separate religion and government in our state of Utah again. In 1871, I was tried for polygamy, but thankfully I was not convicted. I did have 55 wives throughout my entire life.
Damn, bro.
Even after I died in 1877, my Mormon people were constantly under attack by the federal government, determined to strip away the economic and political powers I had established, and the government determined to eradicate the practice of plural marriage.
Thanks for sitting in while I interviewed these two important American figures. As you can see, these two men, they helped fight the religious discrimination in the United States of America, which is why they're still relevant to this day.